I'm Priscilla, and I'm going to be doing a book review on Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close by Jonathan Safran Foer. I honestly think that this is one of the best books that I have read in quite a long time. It was very captivating for me as a reader since it had quite a bit of imagery and it had actual pictures as well to engulf me into the book to the point where I couldn't put it down until I finished reading it, which is something not a lot of books can do for me personally. I think that everybody should read this book at some point in their lives, even if they have no direct relevance to 9/11 incidents, and even if uh, even if it's sometimes difficult to follow through since the point of view changes from different characters throughout the story. I definitely think everybody should give it a shot sometime in their life. What the book is mainly about is a 9-year-old kid called Oscar Schell who is very inquisitive and curious and adventurous and is very smart for his age. And throughout the story, he is shown coping with the death of his father due to the 9/11 terrorist attacks. He's looking for closure throughout, and he learns a lot about himself and a lot about everything that encompasses reading, which is living, which is very interesting in my opinion. The characters that mostly make up the plot are his father, himself, his grandfather, his grandmother, and his mother, which are the main characters, along with a lot of secondary characters who build up his character. I said character so many times, but yeah. Going along, the main plot of the story is him going through finding a vase that belonged to his father that had a key inside with a card that said black in all capital in red ink, which he thought only represented a color, and it was hard for him to understand at first, but then he realized that black was actually a last name. So he started looking around throughout the 5 boroughs of New York, finding all of the people whose last name was Black, so that he can find out more about his father and why he would have that key and what the key belonged to. Since his father loved putting him through quests and putting him to find different things throughout the story, throughout his life, and throughout when he was alive, which is a very big part of the story. And what I loved about the story is that it's not a cliche 9/11 story. It's actually very heartwarming, and you learn a lot about living, and you learn a lot about coping, and about learning and being comprehensive about other people and yourself. What I personally took away from the book the most is that you have to treasure what you have because it can be gone in any second, like Oscar's father was in the incident. To him, his father was a lot. They used to do so many things together. He used to tell him stories, and now his father is gone and he has no closure. He will never find out how his father died. And this is a big part of the story. But what is also interesting is that the storyline also follows the history of his own grandfather, Thomas Schell, who also lived through the World War II bombings in Dresden. And throughout the story, you can see the similarities between Oscar and his grandfather, which I have not seen any story so far besides this one that does something along those lines, which is very impressive of the writer to have been able to put that together. And it's just a plot like no other. And I think everybody should take the time to read it, and I definitely recommend it to everyone, especially older audiences, just because maybe for people who are very young, maybe at the beginning of high school, they might not be able to follow through to the plot line. So that's the only difficult thing about the book. But throughout, I loved it. I loved all the themes throughout, like learning to cope and learning about yourself and learning especially how to exist. That's the main thing that I took away from the book. So yeah, I think it was an amazing book and definitely try it out. Thank you for listening.